Now, can we go back to a point you made? You called them standards, and for us folks who aren't really well versed in jazz, what exactly is the difference between a standard and a cover?
Okay, well, that's a good question, really, because a lot of times when people play covers, you think of, or at least I think of, a cover band. Like you've got a Beatles tribute band or a Journey tribute band or whatever. They're playing covers. Or someone that's famous does, like Lady Gaga or someone else. They'll do something that somebody else made, and they will do a cover of that in their own thing in a different interpretation. A standard is a standard is essentially a classical / love song, ballad, or it's usually a ballad of some sort from a movie from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s that was famous, and it was recorded with an orchestra, something like in My Fair Lady or any of these movies that were out then, and then they take it in a complete different interpretation with a syncopated time, with a swinging beat. So that's what Miles Davis...
Miles
Davis did that? He did that with My Funny Valentine. You know, he took that. Now that was from a movie. He took that and turned that into one of the most iconic jazz interpretations or standard.
So then, how is So What or Take Five or Blue Ron?
Turk?
Yeah. How are those now considered standards? Because those didn't come from movies. Those were jazz songs, and now they're considered standards, right? So
exactly.
They're not covers.
You just answered your own question there. So what was popular at one time and was monumental at one time then becomes something in the shelf that new artists discover, take it, dig it like you dig it. Wow, that was like a perfect note. Dang. They take it, they discover it, they interpret it, and they put it out in their own style. And that's what it is. That becomes a standard. That essentially is a standard.
So, obviously, moving
now, let's take a punk band like Rosillos, okay? Somebody's going to get their head beat in tonight. That's not a standard. that's something that someone just made. But and I've never heard a punk band do a standard per se. But there are rock bands and even metal bands that will take someone else's something from the 70s or the 60s. A rock song can be a standard for a newer rock band.
So why aren't we calling them standards? We're calling them covers. I guess is my initial question.
Who's we?
Well, the mainstream wise.
Well, I think
why is it only in the jazz world where they're considered standards?
It's not really only in the jazz world, but jazz made itself known for, it blossomed out of taking very popular tunes. And you realize also back in the 30s, 40s, how somebody knew about music was either going to the movie and see the Saturday matinee, or listening on their radio together to that kind of music. Do I need to get a little closer? Okay, sorry. Okay, so they would go, and that's where they learned about this music. So then, just like Smoke on the Water, okay? You're talking about Smoke on the Water. Everyone knows that. How many people have done that? A lot of people have done that. That essentially is a standard. But that was a song that you go to a wedding or somewhere, they're always playing that. Everybody, you play that song, people know it. People know it. So, and the jazz standards that these cats in the 50s and 60s were doing were songs that everybody knew. There wasn't a Google, there wasn't a Spotify, there wasn't any of that stuff. They just knew it because it was there.
Sure, but it's just interesting that we don't call them standards. We call them covers.
Yeah.
like we in jazz world they're called standards, but
Yes.
in the rest of like the mainstream rock, we call them covers. You know.
Yeah. I think it's also the same with the vernacular, too.
Sure.
A rocker may say rad, and a jazz guy will go, it's cool, hip.